Since 2020, when we have become accustomed to a new normal, there have been movies that have definitely confused us tenfold. The OTT revolution has allowed for various productions to focus on genres and formulate compelling thrillers and anthologies respectively, that have allowed the creative freedom for directors to really test the analytical skills of audiences. For whosoever has been following the channel, you know that I've spoken about complex film endings and their explanations. Movies like No Smoking, Stree, Andhadhun and 404 Aeronaut Found have been discussed for their complicated endings and bringing some form of clarity regarding how those stories concluded. Through this video, I want to talk about some of the stories that have become a talking topic on online forums for their confusing storylines and conclusion. So without further ado, here is Tried&Refused Productions with 5 shocking but confusing Indian movie endings people still don't understand. Ghost Stories. Anurag Kashyap story. In 2020, the snooze fest of an anthology, except probably the Bakar Banerjee's story, was Ghost Stories. While most of the titles were deciphered with clarity by the audience, it was Anurag Kashyap's story that really confused audiences. Presenting several metaphors, analogies and imagery through his story with a monochrome-like visual treatment, this story left audiences more perplexed than intrigued. Focusing on a paranoid pregnant woman played by Sobhita Dhulipala, who babysits her late sister's son, who has an odd affection towards his aunt, steering towards obsession and being in love. For whosoever has seen this short, I'll just go through several parts of it and try to explain them, as Neha's visions, played by Sobhita by the way, often transitions between real and her mind playing twisted games. The story makes it clear that Sobhita's mental condition is deteriorating. It is assumed as she went through a miscarriage when she was first pregnant, and her paranoia and obsession has manifested into a doll collection that she pretends to feed as well. In the flashback, we get to know that she touched a crow's egg on her windowsill when she was a kid, which were destroyed by the crow, and to which her mother curses her that this will be the fate of her own children when she grows up. Keeping that in context, you see the growing obsession of the little nephew who despises the attention being given to the unborn child. His obsession leads to him drawing the belly of his aunt with the baby in it and painting it black. He doesn't want to share his aunt with anyone, even if it means eliminating the child himself. We often see as the kid, through his drawing, tries to harm the child. It inadvertently causes pain to Neha. The child, in the process of feeding worms to the crows, touches the eggs, and to the horror of Neha, the eggs get rejected by the mother crow again and are destroyed, making her revisit the curse that her mother gave her. This leads to her absolute deterioration. Images haunt her of her husband flushing down their child down the toilet and growing wings of herself as she has a second miscarriage. She gouges on a crow herself, looking at herself in the mirror, and imagines her presence to be that of a crow eating her own unborn child. This, more or less, is the coming together of the curse that her mother gave her. Love. One of the most enjoyable thrillers that definitely made me scratch my head in disbelief just because of the details that I missed and the complex storyline executed by Khalid Rahman was the 2020 Malayalam film Love. The story unfolds as Anoop and Deepthi, a married couple, get into a fight leading to a scuffle and the death of Deepthi. As Anoop hides her body in the washroom, his friends appear. A drunk man having marital issues and another one who wants to have sex with a girl in his room, basically having an extramarital affair. When Deepthi's father appears, he slaps Anoop across the face when he gets to know that he physically harmed his daughter, stating that it is inevitable in marriages. Upon the father-in-law leaving, he reveals to both his friends that he has killed his wife, only for the bell to ring and Deepthi to appear and his friends to vanish, leading to an argument, an ultimate scuffle, and Anoop knocking out Deepthi, this time with a steaming iron, only to transition to a car at night, which is shockingly driven by Deepthi, who confesses to the police officer that she has killed her husband and his corpse is in the trunk. My exact reaction was this. What needs assessment is the friends, the reset of the timeline, and who killed whom. I think it's pretty clear to assume that both Anoop's friends are extensions of his mental state, as the argument between Deepthi, the second argument specifically, exposes the same problems that his friends were going through. Essentially, the problems of these friends are Anoop's problems. Gokulan, the friend who accuses his wife of having an affair with a man called Shelby, and when Anoop is confronted about his affair by Deepthi, he becomes defensive and flings an accusation of an affair against her, stating the name Shelby. In the case of the other friend, he is having an extramarital affair in Anoop's house with a woman who is married and has a child when Deepthi is away. It is essentially what Anoop did as well. Hence, a lot of the conversations between Anoop and his friends are conversations with himself, trying to come to terms with his own mental trauma. The only real human interaction while Deepti is away seems to be the back and forth between the father-in-law. Anoop is in two minds as the second argument ensues and chooses violence. We assume that the first argument, which is a slow motion and muted sequence, is him getting geared up for the altercation. The final shot probably is an inference to the fact that Anoop did smash Deepti's head with a steam iron, but she persevered and eventually killed him, noted from the injury that is still prevalent in her head as she confesses it to the cops. What do you think? Do you think Deepti actually killed Anoop? Or the final sequence actually was Deepti's hypothetical in her mind if she ended up killing him? Let me know. Behrupia. Ray, the recently released anthology, was a mixed bag for a lot of people, feeling some stories really captured the magic and inventiveness of Ray, but the others not even coming close to the vicinity of his creations. Behrupia is a story that led to a polarizing reaction. I personally raved about KK Menon's performance, but was disappointed on the untapped potential of the story with such an interesting character. A person who inherits a large sum of money and techniques of prosthetics makeup plays God, thinking that he can become anyone. Causing harm to his wrongdoers, Indrashish stumbles upon Pir Baba, who can look at a man and tell him everything about himself. As Pir Baba looks through Indrashish in the first encounter, the troubled man equates to his creation not being perfect, being the reason why Pir Baba could look through him. Taking up the disguise of a fleeting rapist now, he meets Pir Baba again, assuming that he will get the best of him this time. But the Baba can look through Indrashish again. In order to crack him, Baba recalls his loving relationship with his grandmother. This makes Indrashish almost break down, but his lust for power and stubbornness takes the better of him, still assuming the role of the absconding rapist. The public recognize him from the news, and the Baba mockingly smiles and gives him his wish to be the convicted felon. We see Indrashish get surrounded by the public, happy in his mind that he beat the great Baba, only to be unable to take off his mask as he gets chased by the public. The man shuts himself in a barber shop only to struggle further in removing his makeup. He tests this by cutting his forehead only for blood to be spilled and poking his eye with a pin to remove his lens, transitioning to a blackout. I think it's clear that Behrupia tries to explore supernatural undertones while following Indrashish's uncontrollable ambition. What's important to note is the last conversation between the Baba and Indrashish. The Baba mentions Indrashish's grandmother and his romantic interest. Indrashish momentarily breaks down, but is adamant he is Rakesh Singh. Baba reminds him that this is not the way he should lash out as everyone is struggling, giving him another opportunity. He asks him again, but the man does not budge. The Baba condescendingly gives up only to state, "ये ही आपका असली चेहरा है, हमेशा ये ही रहेगा." We assume that the Baba took away from Indrashish what was his biggest asset, to manipulate and be whoever he wanted. In this pursuit of playing God and the destructive outlets he chose, he was given a chance 3 times to come out as himself, but his arrogance to win and play God leads to his own downfall, becoming his own creation forever. AK vs AK. An inventive project from Bollywood was the Netflix release title AK vs AK, starring Anurag Kashyap and Anil Kapoor. A movie based on the making of a movie in real time as Anurag Kashyap and Anil Kapoor play exaggerated versions of themselves. Both the actors represent characters which many may presume to be their real personalities. When the borderline sociopathic and obsessive director approaches the commercial star for an experimental project that involves his daughter being kidnapped and the rules that must be followed in the quest to find her, is what is AK vs AK. In the end of this film, what we realize is that the script doesn't go as planned as Kashyap envisioned. His apartment was never a part of the script. His parents go missing, Sonam Kapoor is not at the location he expected, and when he reads out the script, he realizes that there have been changes made without his consultation, leading to an end where Anil Kapoor shoots him. In the end, as Anurag Kashyap is hospitalized, what we realize is that Anil Kapoor was in control the whole time, roping in Harshvardhan Kapoor, Boney Kapoor and Sonam to partake in this charade to lead Kashyap to believing that he is in control. All triggered by being publicly humiliated as water was thrown at the star by the director. While everyone understood the meta pitch of this film and the fact that the twist showcases Anil Kapoor winning, no, literally, he won a Filmfare Award in the end, people were confused on what the film symbolizes or communicates. The film essentially is a commentary on the problems that the Hindi film industry has been plagued by for years, and maybe something that Kashyap himself has experienced, when a director loses complete creative control of the project and it eventually manifests into the star gaining control. leading to the film becoming what no one envisioned in the first place. This is the experience not only for the director-actor combination, but the fate of individuals who are outsiders as well, versus the people who are indoctrinated into the system and have a vast networking basis in the film industry. The celebrities in this incestuous bubble will always be in a position of power and control, no matter what the individuals may think. This one was a unique experience that I even enjoyed after revisiting it. Kelowna. Directed by Raj Mehta, this short from Ajeeb Dastaans also had people split between loving its twisted climax to others despising the same and considering it to be too over the top. Meenal, a domestic help, and Binny, her sister, weasel their way through the gated communities that have their own set of problems. Struggling to get electricity, Meenal thinks that the best solution will be to work for Vinod Agarwal, the new secretary of the locality who fancies her. She leaves her present employer Abha, who could not conceive a child and loved Binny. Upon working at Vinod Agarwal's house for a while, her electricity comes back and the Agarwals have a child that Meenal often takes care of. Binny is not pleased by the growing fondness of Meenal and the Agarwal's newborn child. Vinod approaches Meenal, corners her and harasses her, all while Binny looks on. Vinod projects this anger towards Sushil, the presswala, and Meenal's romantic fling, but pacifies the situation by inviting all three of them to a party celebrating the birth of their child. This party takes a dark turn as Sushil steals a bottle of alcohol and cuts the electricity in rage, only for Vinod to find that his missing child is in a pressure cooker boiling to his own death. Everyone wondered who may have killed the little child. While Meenal and Sushil are being beaten up by the police, assuming that they are the perpetrators, it is in the small moments that the suspect becomes clearer. Binny, throughout this film, was annoyed of the fondness of the newborn child in the Agarwal family. Meenal reminds her कि इन बड़े घर वालों के लिए इनके बच्चे सिर्फ एक खिलौना होते हैं. There is a small glimpse also of the party when Binny is playing with the child, as Abha, the first employer of Meenal, looks at her. While Meenal is being thrashed in the police station, blames Abha for this act as a motive of jealousy for not having her own child. Abha tells something to the police officers that leads them to check Binny's bag, which has the newborn child's toy, only to state again कि वो बच्चा थोड़ी ना है, वो एक खिलौना है. Logistics aside of how a small kid like Binny can execute such a gruesome murder, it's safe to say that all the fingers point towards her carrying out this horrible act. There is even a glimpse of her fiddling around with a pressure cooker in another scene. I understand why people consider the twist to be either insane or over the top, but it still caused for a climax that led to an intense discussion about the identity of the perpetrator. And that was the video, guys. Write down in the comments below of some other complicated endings that you would like me to talk about. Please don't forget to follow me on Instagram, the handle's right in front of you. Follow me at JammyPants4. Also, please support us by smashing the like button and subscribing to our channel for weekly content ahead. Thank you for watching.